They say that in the heart of Africa, where the baobab trees touch the clouds and the red earth remembers every footstep, there are stones that listen. Asterisk, not many believe this, of course. But I'm about to tell you the story of a boy who discovered that the greatest power in this world isn't strength, or wealth, or even magic. Asterisk gets the courage to remain kind when the world has been cruel to you. Asterisk, this is the story of Quaim, the orphan who spoke to stones. Asterisk, and before we begin this journey together, if you love stories that touch the soul and teach timeless wisdom, subscribe to the Tales by RM. Hit that notification bell, because every week, I bring you stories that our ancestors whispered around firelight, stories that still hold power today. Asterisk, now, let us begin. Asterisk, in a village nestled between two great mountains, where the morning mist rolled down like ancestral spirits greeting the earth, there lived a boy named Quaim. Asterisk, well, lived is perhaps too generous a word. Asterisk, Quaim survived. Asterisk, he had been orphaned at the age of 7 when the fever sickness swept through the village like a hungry ghost. His mother went first, her once bright eyes dimming like dying embers. His father followed 3 days later, calling Quaim's name with his last breath. Asterisk, the boy had cried until he had no tears left. Then he cried without tears, which is a far deeper kind of sorrow. Asterisk, now, you might think that the village would embrace this child, that the community would wrap him in their arms as they had wrapped his parents in burial cloth. But poverty has a way of hardening hearts, and the village was poor. Asterisk, very poor. Asterisk, Quaim was passed from home to home like an unwanted cooking pot. Each family kept him for a while, fed him just enough to keep breathing, worked him until his small hands bled, then sent him to the next household when the burden became too heavy. Asterisk, the merchant Obasi used him to carry heavy loads to market, never paying him a single cowrie shell. Asterisk, the farmer Yo made him work in the fields from sunrise to sunset, beating him when he moved too slowly. Asterisk, the weaver woman, Amma, who everyone thought was kind, would give him only the scraps that even the dogs wouldn't eat. Asterisk, but the worst was the chief's son, Kofi. Asterisk, Kofi was everything Quaim was not. He was strong, well-fed, dressed in fine cloth, and loved by everyone. But inside, where it truly matters, Kofi was rotten like a beautiful fruit left too long in the sun. Asterisk, he would trip Quaim in the village square and laugh. Asterisk, he would steal the small bits of food Quaim managed to save and crush them in the dirt. Asterisk, he would gather the other children and they would throw stones at Quaim, calling him Ghost Boy because he was so thin, so pale with hunger. Asterisk, one particularly cruel day, when Quaim was perhaps 11 years old, Kofi and his friends chased him beyond the village boundaries, throwing rocks and insults. Quaim ran and ran, his bare feet bleeding on the rough ground, until he could run no more. Asterisk, he collapsed near a great stone outcropping, a place the villagers called the Elder's Circle because 7 massive boulders stood arranged like old men in council. Asterisk, the boys eventually left, bored with their game, but Quaim remained. Asterisk, he had nowhere else to go. Asterisk, and there, with his back against the largest stone, this child who had suffered more than any child should, this boy who had been beaten, starved, and despised, this orphan with nothing and no one. Asterisk, he began to speak. Asterisk, not to pray to the gods, mind you. He had tried that before, and the gods seemed deaf to the cries of small boys. Asterisk, no. Quaim spoke to the stone. Asterisk, you're warm, he whispered, pressing his thin shoulders against the sun-heated rock. Thank you for your warmth. No one else offers me even that. Asterisk, he sat there as the sun began to set, painting the sky in oranges and purples, and he talked to that stone as if it were his only friend in the world. Asterisk, because it was. Asterisk, my mother used to sing, he told the stone. She had a voice like honey, like the first rain after the dry season. My father would laugh and say she could make the crops grow just by humming to them. Asterisk, I try to remember her songs, but they're fading, like footprints in the dust when the wind blows. I'm so afraid I'll forget them completely. I'm so afraid I'll forget their faces. Asterisk, the stone, of course, said nothing. Asterisk, but it was warm, and it didn't judge, and it didn't hurt him. Asterisk, so Quaim returned the next day, and the next, and the next. Asterisk, each day After whatever cruel household had taken him and worked him to exhaustion, he would walk to the elder's circle. He would sit with his stone, and he would talk. He told it about his dreams, small dreams, like having enough food to feel full just once, or owning a blanket that wasn't torn, or knowing what it felt like to be hugged. He told it about his fears that he would die alone like a wild animal, that no one would remember he existed, that maybe Kofi was right, and he was worthless. And he told it about the tiny kindnesses he witnessed and tried to hold in his heart like precious seeds. The time a old woman smiled at him, the morning he saw a bird feeding its babies, the way the rain smelled when it first touched the dry earth. Now, here's where our story takes a turn, friends. Because on the 41st day of Quaim speaking to the stones, something impossible happened. The stone spoke back. Child came. A voice like grinding mountains, like the earth itself forming words. We have heard you. Quaim leaped up, his heart hammering like a drum in his chest. He looked around wildly, but he was alone in the elder's circle, with only the 7 great stones for company. Do not be afraid, the voice rumbled, and Quaim realized it was coming from the largest stone, the one he had been leaning against. We are the elder stones, and we have stood here for 1,000 years. We have seen much, but never have we heard a heart as pure as yours. I must be going mad from hunger. Quaim whispered. You are not mad. Another stone spoke, its voice like rustling gravel. You are seen, truly seen, perhaps for the first time in your short life. And so began the most extraordinary friendship in all the land. The stones, ancient beyond measure, had witnessed the birth of the mountains and the death of rivers. They had seen kingdoms rise and fall like grass growing and dying. They knew secrets that humans had long forgotten. But more than knowledge, they possessed something else, the ability to judge the true nature of a human heart. Quaim, the eldest stone said. You have passed a test you did not know you were taking. For 40 days, you have shown kindness to something that could give you nothing in return. You spoke with gratitude for simple warmth. You shared your sorrow without bitterness consuming you completely. You remained human even when humans treated you as less than human. We will give you a gift. Another stone rumbled, but you the oldest stone began to glow with a soft, amber light. And Quaim watched in wonder as a small pouch appeared at its base, made of leather that seemed to shift colors in the fading light. In this pouch are 3 stones, the elder explained. Each has been blessed with ancient power, but hear us well, young one. These stones will only work for a heart that remains pure. Use them selfishly, and they will turn to dust. Use them with wisdom and compassion, and they will change your destiny. The first stone, the voice continued, is the stone of truth. Hold it when someone speaks, and you will know if their words come from genuine intent or from deception. The second stone is the stone of growth. Plant it with any seed, and the harvest will be 100 times blessed, but it will only work once. The third stone is the stone of one wish. But be warned, it grants only what the heart truly desires, not what the mouth requests. Many have been destroyed by this stone, for their hearts desired dark things they could not admit even to themselves. Quaim picked up the pouch with trembling hands. Why? He asked simply. Why would you give me such gifts? Because, the eldest stone said. And if a stone could smile, Quaim felt this one did. The world needs more souls like yours. And perhaps, with these gifts, you will survive long enough to grow into the man you are meant to be. But remember, Quaim, the greatest power is not in these stones, it is in who you are. Do not lose yourself in the search for revenge or power. Stay kind, stay true. That is the hardest magic of all. That night, Quaim slept at the elder's circle, the pouch clutched to his chest, and for the first time since his parents died, he felt something he had almost forgotten. Hope. And that hope, my friends, was about to be tested in ways the boy could never imagine. Now, Quaim was many things, but he was not a fool. He knew that if he suddenly appeared with wealth or power, people would ask questions, and these were not Kind people who would celebrate a poor orphan's good fortune. No, they would become suspicious, jealous, dangerous. Asterisk so Quaim did something wise beyond his years. Asterisk he waited. Asterisk he watched. Asterisk and he planned. Asterisk for 3 months. He kept the stone secret, continuing his life of suffering while observing the village with new eyes. The stone of truth remained in his pouch, but its presence changed how he saw the world. Asterisk he noticed things he'd been too beaten down to see before. Asterisk he saw how the merchant Obasi cheated the poor farmers, using false weights to pay less for their crops. Asterisk he saw how the chief accepted bribes to settle disputes, favoring whoever paid more. Asterisk he saw how even the kind-looking elder who gave alms at the temple would whisper cruel gossip that destroyed reputations. Asterisk but he also saw the few threads of genuine goodness woven through the village's darkness. Asterisk old grandmother Efua, who was nearly blind and had nothing, would still leave out water for stray dogs. Asterisk young Abina, the potter's daughter, would sneak food from her own meager portions to leave near where Quaim slept. Asterisk the quiet man Kojo, who worked in the fields and never spoke, would deliberately work slower when Quaim was assigned to help him, making the boy's burden lighter without anyone noticing. Asterisk these people, Quaim decided, would be the ones he helped first. Asterisk but he needed to be clever about it. Asterisk the dry season was approaching, and with it came the annual worry about food. The village's survival depended on the harvest, and this year's crops were looking poor. The chief had announced that if the harvest failed, he would have to send away those who couldn't contribute. Asterisk everyone knew who would be sent away first. Asterisk the orphans, the elderly, the weak. Asterisk Quaim would be the first to go. Asterisk on the night of the new moon, when darkness blanketed the village like thick cloth, Quaim crept out to the old abandoned field at the edge of the village. This land had been cursed, people said, ever since the original owner died without heirs. Nothing would grow there, the earth was dead. Asterisk perfect, Quaim thought. Asterisk he dug a small hole in the center of the field and pulled out the stone of growth. It was smooth and green like deep jungle leaves, warm in his palm. Asterisk please, he whispered to it, not for me, but for those who are kind. Let this harvest save them. Asterisk he placed the stone in the earth and planted on it every type of seed he could find. The yams, cassava, millet, corn, seeds he had carefully collected, grain by grain, over the past months. Asterisk then he covered it all and returned to his sleeping mat behind the weaver woman's house. Asterisk 3 days later, the village woke to a miracle. Asterisk the cursed field had exploded with growth. Asterisk plants rose from the earth like they were racing toward the sun. The yams grew so large that one could feed a family for a week. The corn stood tall as a man, with ears heavy and golden. The cassava roots spread thick and rich beneath the soil. Asterisk it was impossible. It was miraculous. Asterisk it was salvation. Asterisk the chief immediately claimed the field as his own. Of course, he declared it a blessing from the ancestors for his wise leadership. He ordered the harvest to be gathered and placed in the village storehouse. Asterisk but here's where Quaim's wisdom shone through. Asterisk the night before the chief could claim everything, Quaim had already harvested a portion working in darkness, filling baskets with produce. He hid these baskets in various places around the village. Asterisk that night, grandmother Efua found a basket of yams on her doorstep. Asterisk Abina's family discovered cassava waiting outside their home. Asterisk Kojo woke to find corn piled near his sleeping area. Asterisk and many others, all those who had shown even the smallest kindness to anyone, not just to Quaim, found themselves blessed with food. Asterisk no one knew where it came from. Asterisk some said the ancestors provided it. Asterisk some said it was magic. Asterisk only the stones knew the truth, and they kept Quaim's secret. Asterisk the harvest from the field was so abundant that even after the chief took his share, there was enough to feed the village through the dry season. Quaim's curse of being sent away was lifted. Asterisk for now. Asterisk but success, my friends, draws attention like blood draws flies. Asterisk and Kofi, the chief's son, was watching. Asterisk Kofi had noticed something strange. Somehow, the worthless orphan boy had survived another season. Moreover, some of the poorest families Kofi despised suddenly had food when they shouldn't. Asterisk his cruel mind began to work. Asterisk something is not right. He told his father. That orphan boy is always disappearing, and these miracles started happening around the same time. I think he's stealing from us and giving it to the poor to make himself look good. Asterisk the chief, a man who saw conspiracy everywhere because he himself was always conspiring, found this theory compelling. Asterisk watch him. He ordered his son. If the boy is a thief, we will make an example of him. Asterisk now Quaim, still carrying the stone of truth, began to sense the danger circling him. When people spoke to him, he would sometimes touch the stone through his pouch, and he would feel whether their intentions were good or ill. Asterisk Kofi's intentions blazed with malice like a bushfire. Asterisk one day, Kofi approached Quaim with a smile that the stone immediately identified as false. Asterisk Quaim, my friend, Kofi said, his voice dripping with honey that hid poison. I've been unfair to you. I want to make amends. Come to my father's house tonight. We're having a feast, and I want you to join us. Asterisk the old Quaim would have been so desperate for acceptance that he might have believed this, despite everything. Asterisk but the new Quaim, holding the stone of truth, felt the deception like a snake's hiss in his mind. Asterisk thank you, Kofi, Quaim said, carefully, but I must decline. I have work to do. Asterisk Kofi's smile froze, then cracked. You refuse the chief's son. You, an orphan who eats scraps. Asterisk I refuse false friendship, Quaim said quietly, and walked away. Asterisk that, friends, was a mistake. Asterisk not a moral mistake. Quaim was right to refuse, but a strategic one, because now Kofi knew that Quaim could somehow see through his lies, and that made the boy dangerous. Asterisk Kofi went to his father that very night. Asterisk the orphan rejected our kindness. He lied. He said he has his own plans, his own secrets. Father, I think he's planning something against us. Maybe he's the one who cursed the old field in the first place, and now he's pretending to be innocent while he steals from our future harvests. Asterisk the chief, paranoid and greedy, believed his son. Asterisk bring him to me tomorrow. He ordered. We will search his belongings. If he has anything he shouldn't, we will exile him, or worse. Asterisk that night, Quaim sat with the stones at the elder's circle. Asterisk there. Go in to search me tomorrow. He told his ancient friends. They'll find the pouch. They'll take the last stone, the stone of one wish. What should I do? Asterisk the choice is yours. Young one. The eldest stone rumbled. You could run. You could hide. Or you could face them with truth as your shield. Asterisk but I'll lose everything. Quaim whispered. Asterisk will you? Another stone asked. What is everything? What do you truly have that can be taken? And what do you possess that can never be stolen? Asterisk Quaim thought about this. Asterisk his parents were gone, that couldn't be taken because it was already lost. Asterisk his poverty was complete, they couldn't take what he didn't have. Asterisk his reputation was already destroyed, they'd called him worthless for years. Asterisk but his character, his kindness, his choice to remain good when the world was cruel. Asterisk that was his. Truly his. Asterisk I'll face them, Quaim decided, but I need to use the last stone first. I need to make my one wish. Asterisk are you certain? The stones asked. Are you certain your heart knows what it truly desires? Asterisk Quaim pulled out the stone of one wish. It was deep blue, like the sky just before night fully falls, and it seemed to pulse with inner light. Asterisk he closed his eyes and clutched it to his chest. Asterisk and in that moment, Quaim searched his heart. Asterisk did he want revenge on those who hurt him? No. Asterisk did he want wealth? Not really. Asterisk did he want power? No. Asterisk what did his heart truly desire? Asterisk. I wish, Quaim whispered, for the wisdom to always know the right thing to do, and the courage to do it, no matter the cost. Asterisk the stone flared bright blue. So bright that Quaim had to close his eyes. He felt warmth spread through his chest, into his mind, filling him with a clarity he'd never known before. Asterisk when he opened his eyes, the stone had turned to dust, glittering in his palm like powdered starlight before the wind carried it away. Asterisk but something had changed inside him. Asterisk he felt a complete, certain, unafraid. Asterisk the next morning, when Kofi and the chief's guards came for him, Quaim was ready. Asterisk they dragged him to the village center, where the entire community was forced to gather. Asterisk this boy, the chief announced, is suspected of theft and dark magic. We will search him and reveal his crimes. Asterisk Kofi personally searched Quaim, his hands rough and cruel. He found the leather pouch and held it up triumphantly. Asterisk what is this? He demanded. Asterisk it's mine, Quaim said calmly. Asterisk and what's inside? The chief demanded. Asterisk Quaim felt the wisdom from his wish flowing through him. He knew exactly what to do. Asterisk look inside and see, he said. Asterisk Kofi opened the pouch and tipped it out into his palm. Asterisk nothing came out. Asterisk the stones were gone. The stone of truth had crumbled to dust when Quaim stopped needing it to see through lies. And the stone of growth had fulfilled its purpose. Only the pouch remained. Asterisk it's empty, Kofi shouted. But I saw him hiding things. I know he has something. Asterisk and here, friends, Quaim made a choice that would define everything that followed. Asterisk he could have stayed silent, let them find nothing, and slipped away. Asterisk but his wish had given him wisdom and courage. Asterisk so instead, he spoke truth. Asterisk you want to know my secret? Quaim said, his voice carrying across the silent crowd. I'll tell you. I was given a gift by the ancestors. 3 stones of power. I used one to create the harvest that saved this village. I used one to see through the lies that people tell. And I used the last one to wish for something that none of you seem to value. Asterisk I wished for the wisdom to be kind, even when others are cruel. To be honest, even when lies would be easier. To be brave, even when fear would be safer. Asterisk you call me worthless, but I fed the hungry. You call me nothing, but I saved the village. You call me a thief, but I have given everything and taken nothing. Asterisk so yes, search me. Take everything I own. It will fit in your hands, chief, because I own nothing but these rags. But you cannot take what truly matters, and that is something you, with all your power and gold, will never understand. Asterisk the village square was silent. Asterisk for the first time, people truly saw Quaim, not as the ghost boy, the orphan, the nothing. Asterisk they saw him as he truly was. Asterisk and in that moment, something shifted in the hearts of those gathered. Asterisk you know, friends, there's a special kind of courage that has nothing to do with fighting or strength. It's the courage to stand in your truth when everyone else wants you to be small. Asterisk that's what Quaim did. Asterisk and that's when the real transformation began. Asterisk the chief stood there, his face twisted with confusion and anger. He'd expected to find evidence of theft, of dark magic, of something that would justify his son's cruelty. Asterisk instead, he'd found nothing, and everything. Asterisk wait, came a voice from the crowd. It was grandmother Efua, bent with age but standing, tall in spirit. This boy speaks truth. I found yams on my doorstep when I was starving. I thought it was the ancestors, but now I wonder. Asterisk we found cassava, Bina's father said. We would have gone hungry without it. Asterisk I found corn, Kojo said quietly, speaking up for perhaps the first time in years. Someone knew we needed it. Someone cared. Asterisk one by one, people began to speak. Asterisk and one by one, Kofi's lies unraveled like poorly woven cloth. Asterisk the chief's face darkened. Silence, he shouted. This proves nothing. The boy admits to having magical stones. That is witchcraft. Asterisk is it? Came another voice. Asterisk an ancient man stepped forward so old that even the chief's father had known him as elderly. This was Elder Osei, who rarely spoke but whose words carried the weight of decades. Asterisk I know the story of the altar stones, Osei said. My grandfather told it to me, and his grandfather told it to him. The stones only speak to the pure of heart. They only give their gifts to those worthy of them. If this boy received their blessing, then the ancestors themselves have judged him worthy. Asterisk can you say the same of yourself, chief? If you stood before those stones, would they speak to you? Or would they remain silent as they do for most humans, who have let power corrupt their souls? Asterisk the chief had no answer to this. Asterisk Kofi, however, was not ready to accept defeat. Asterisk Kofi's voice, desperate and cruel. Asterisk he's still just an orphan. Kofi shouted. And nobody. Why should we believe him over us? He could be lying about everything. Asterisk, you're right, Huame said. And his calmness was more powerful than any shout. I am an orphan. I am poor. By your measures, I am nobody. Asterisk, but I know something you don't, Kofi. I know what it's like to have nothing and still choose to give. I know what it's like to be hated and still choose love. I know what it's like to be powerless and still choose integrity. Asterisk, you have everything: wealth, power, your father's protection. And what have you chosen? To torment those weaker than you. To lie, to steal joy from those who have so little of it. Asterisk, so yes. I'm nobody, but I would rather be a nobody who sleeps peacefully than a somebody who needs cruelty to feel strong. Asterisk, in that moment, something broke in Kofi. Maybe it was shame finally cracking through his armor of arrogance. Maybe it was seeing himself clearly for the first time. Reflected in Quame's words like a mirror he couldn't escape. Asterisk, whatever it was. Kofi's face crumpled. Asterisk, and he ran. Asterisk ran away from the village square. From his father, from the truth. Asterisk, the chief stood alone now, facing the judgment of his people. Asterisk, Elder Osei spoke again. Chief, you have a choice to make. You can continue on this path of suspicion and cruelty, or you can recognize that this boy has done more for our village with nothing than we have done with everything. Asterisk, the ancestors spoke through those stones. They chose Quame. Will you continue to fight against their will? Asterisk, the chief looked at Quame, at the crowd, at the elder. Asterisk, the boy is free to go. He said finally, his voice tight. But he must leave the village. I will not have talk of magic and stones disrupting our peace. Asterisk, no. Several voices shouted. Asterisk, he saved us. Asterisk, the chief is wrong. Asterisk, but Quame held up his hand. And remarkably, the crowd quieted. Asterisk, it's all right. He said, I'll go, but not because I'm forced to. Because I choose to. Asterisk, why? Grandmother Fu asked. You've proven yourself. You could stay now. Be respected. Asterisk, because, Quame explained, I've learned something from the stones. This village is sick with something that one person can't heal. No matter how many crops I grow or people I feed, it's sick with the idea that some people matter more than others. That power means you're right. That cruelty is acceptable if you're strong enough to get away with it. Asterisk, I can't fix that by staying here and being accepted into the same system that's broken. But maybe I can fix it by leaving and showing there's another way. Asterisk, I'll build something new. A place where orphans are treasured, not discarded. Where kindness is strength, not weakness. Where everyone matters, not just the powerful. Asterisk, and anyone who wants to join me is welcome. Asterisk, for a long moment, no one moved. Asterisk, then Grandmother Fu stepped forward. I'm old, she said, but I'm not dead yet. I'll come. Asterisk, Abina and her family moved to join her. We'll come. Asterisk, Kojo stepped forward silently, his presence speaking louder than words. Asterisk, one by one, others came forward. Not everyone. The chief and his supporters remained, but enough. The kind ones, the tired ones, the ones who'd been waiting for someone to show them a different path. Asterisk, by the time the sun set that day, 37 people stood with KWAME. Asterisk, 37. People ready to build something new. Asterisk, shift to time passage, storytelling of yours. Asterisk, and build they did, my friends. Asterisk, go. How they built. Asterisk, they traveled for 3 days until they found a valley blessed with fresh water and good soil. There, they created a new village, a village with different rules. Asterisk, in Quame's village, every child was treasured, orphan or not. Asterisk, in Quame's village, leadership was earned through service, not inherited through blood. Asterisk, in Quame's village, everyone worked, and everyone ate. No one was thrown away for being weak or old or different. Asterisk, word spread, as word does. Asterisk, other villages heard about the young men who spoke to stones and built a community on kindness. Asterisk, more. People came, refugees from cruelty, orphans, widows, those who'd been cast out or forgotten. Asterisk, and Quame welcomed them all. Asterisk. Years passed. Asterisk, Quame grew from a boy into a man, though he never lost the gentle wisdom the stones had blessed him with. Asterisk, the village grew from 37 people to 300, then more. Asterisk, they prospered not through magic. The stones were gone, after all, but through cooperation, innovation, and the radical idea that everyone's well-being mattered. Asterisk meanwhile, the old village struggled. Asterisk without Quaim's blessed harvest. And with many of their kindest members gone, they fell on hard times. Asterisk Kofi, who'd never learned his lesson, became chief when his father died. He ruled with the same cruelty, and the village withered like a plant without water. Asterisk now, you might expect me to tell you that the old village was destroyed, that Kofi suffered terribly, that karma came down like thunder. Asterisk but life isn't always that neat, friends. Asterisk the old village didn't collapse, it survived, but it never thrived. It became a gray place, where people lived but didn't truly live, if you understand me. Asterisk Kofi grew old, surrounded by wealth, but dying alone. Because he'd never learned that power without love is just another kind of poverty. Asterisk Quaim. Though Asterisk Quaim became something his culture had rarely seen, a leader who ruled through wisdom rather than force, through example rather than command. Asterisk they say that even in his old age, he would walk to the edge of the village every week and sit with a large stone, talking to it as he had as a boy. Asterisk people thought it was a quirk of his, maybe even a sign of his age. Asterisk but those closest to him knew the truth. Asterisk he was staying humble, staying grateful, staying connected to the moment that changed everything when he had nothing but chose kindness anyway. Asterisk on the day Quaim died very old, very loved. Surrounded by children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren, he asked to be carried one last time to the elders' circle, to the 7 great stones where his story truly began. Asterisk they laid him there gently, and he smiled up at the sky. Asterisk thank you, he whispered to the stones. Not for the power you gave me, but for showing me the power I already had. Asterisk and those nearby swore they heard a rumbling voice, deep as the earth itself. Reply, asterisk you showed us something too, child. You showed us that even in a world of cruelty, one kind heart can change everything. Sleep now, little stone speaker. You've earned your rest. Asterisk they buried Quaim there, at the elders' circle. Asterisk, and they say that to this day, if you visit that valley, you'll find 7 great stones arranged in a circle, and one smaller stone in the center, placed there by a community that learned that the measure of a person isn't their wealth or power in asterisk but the size of their heart. Asterisk and that, friends, is the story of Quaim, the orphan who spoke to stones. Asterisk what did we learn from his journey? Asterisk we learned that kindness is not weakness, it's the hardest strength. Asterisk we learned that what we do when we have nothing reveals who we truly are. Asterisk we learned that one person, armed with wisdom and courage, can plant seeds that grow into forests. Asterisk we learned that stones may be silent, but they're always listening. And more importantly, the universe is always watching how we treat those who can do nothing for us. So I ask you, what stones are you speaking to? What kindness are you showing when no one's watching? What are you building with the power you have, however small it may seem? Asterisk these old stories aren't just entertainment, friends. They're maps for the soul, showing us how to navigate the darkness and find the light. Asterisk if this story touched your heart, if it reminded you of who you want to be in this world, then subscribe to the Tales by RM. Asterisk hit that subscribe button right now. Asterisk turn on notifications so you never miss a story. Asterisk every week, I bring you folk tales from across Africa and beyond, stories our ancestors told to teach us how to be human in the fullest sense of the word. Asterisk share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Maybe someone who's going through hard times. Maybe someone who's forgotten their own power. Maybe someone who just needs to be reminded that kindness matters. Asterisk leave a comment below telling me, what's your stone? What's the one thing you're grateful for even when times are hard? Asterisk remember, friends, the stones are always listening. Asterisk and so is the world. Asterisk until next time, keep your heart pure, your wisdom sharp, and your courage strong. Asterisk this is the Tales by RM, reminding you that every ending is just another beginning. Asterisk and maybe, just maybe, the stones will speak to you too. Asterisk.